Let's get into our guests joining the conversation in a bit, or in fact, right now. Amanda Clinton is head of chambers at the Clinton Consultants, and we also have Wanda Madilo. He is with the NDC's communications team. Shortly, we'll also have joining the conversation Victoria Bright, if you want to put it fully. She's a lawyer, entrepreneur, and a former legal advisor to former President Kufuor. But let's come into the studio. Lady, gentlemen, good morning. Another week has started. We're going to hit the ground running. Quick thoughts on anything on your mind in about a minute and a half. I'll start with you, Amanda.
Just that I think I want to commend the finance minister for the appreciation of the Cedi, as well as the imminent release of, $370 million IMF, and furthermore, I think it's written on the wall for not only the Chief Justice, but, the Electoral Commissioner, in terms of what's been unfolding the last week or so. But I think in line with President Mahama's aim of at least 30% female, it would be good if the next Electoral Commissioner and CJ, if that's the case, are female. And thirdly,
based on what are you...
No, if they're excellent, I think that Mahama
I'm saying
failed
based on what are your suspicions hinged that the CJ is going and that the EC boss is going?
Well, I think the writing's on the wall. We can get into that later.
The writing
on the show.
Is on the wall, huh?
Yes, the writing's certainly on the wall. But with and then thirdly, Sami Jamfi's gift. It is.
We're touching on that this morning.
Yes, it's really nice to be generous, and I think he was just doing it out of generosity. However, with Mahama's May 2025 Code of Conduct, it didn't go against it. However, such actions could be interpreted as conflicting with the code's principles, especially if they're seen as undermining the national currency or suggesting a lack of confidence in the local economy. But I think it was just a goodwill gesture. But, perhaps in future the optics could be better observed.
All right, thank you very much. Wanda, why did you wince? You had a look on your face when I said we were going to take a look at it.
I was wondering why that is a national topic. I felt it's a bit private. Yeah, the individual involved may be a government functionary, but of course we all do have our own ways of showing affection, care, sympathy, and empathy towards society. So I didn't think that it would come up, on a discussion like this.
Let me just interject before you proceed. I don't know whether you will talk about it. You will have to talk about it.
We will talk about it, right?
But just a quick thought. I may forget.
Yeah.
If the NDC had been in opposition, let's put ourselves before election 2024, and you had seen a public official. Sami is someone I know very well, and I know his ethics and all of that. But the optics didn't look good in this, display of, not even, I'm sure even some people would have pardoned it if it had been the Ghana Cedi. The fact that it was apparently American dollars made some people think, wait, we're making gains and some people are supposedly, would you have been talking the same way you're talking now?
Well, this is largely based on conjecture, that if we were in opposition, well, who knows? Let's be very fair, There have been times where we've seen public officials, visibly throw money at the crowd and all that stuff. And so, for me, whether we're in opposition or in government, the position is the same. Sami himself has issued an apology.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, which is a good thing. So that's why I didn't think there would be a topic for discussion. Whoever
wait, you think because he's apologized, it's not worth discussing because
Ghana has
he's apologized, we should just gloss over it, and there are some people who are calling for his head.
Well, opinions. They're like noses. Everybody has one. We're all entitled to one. I think that Sami did not commit a crime on this occasion.
No, he did not.
He tried to help somebody who actually asked for help. You may be talking about the currency, maybe talking about what quantity, I don't know any of those details. What I know is that he was generous enough to have given to somebody that already has a lot of, quote-unquote issues.
People have asked,
public domain. So
even apart from the issues, I grant that some people have asked, and I read a lot on these things. People send the videos to me with so many comments. I can't get through all of them, but the number of people who send this, and some would say, okay, so but if you're giving to the needy, I grant that, Mama Pat, some people feel well, she's not exactly a needy person.
Yeah, I do agree. That's why I'm saying that all this conjecturing, all this trying to put in perspective and all that, people are entitled to all of that. Sami himself has come out openly to say that he's sorry. He thinks that he would have been a little bit more careful the next time and all that. So I'm at a difficulty speaking to an issue that the center of the discussion himself has acknowledged some error and has apologized in that regard. That's why I don't want to. What else do you have to say when the man at the center of the controversy says?
I mean, I respect Sami for the apology. These are things that not too long ago people would unashamedly, unabashedly do and maybe have nothing to say about. But beyond that apology, I'm trying to wrap my mind around it. Imagine the fact, for example, how do you reconcile, and after this I'll not pose any questions to you on that, I'll come to Vicky. How do you reconcile the code of conduct that President Mahama gives his appointees just a few days prior? And he's hammering on declare your assets. He's hammering on even if you're taking a gift not in excess of 20,000 cedis, which some have said is even high, and all of that. And then this happens. It just doesn't go with the flow, does it?
Optics.
Chief, what has happened?
The optics, like we said, is not a crime. It's not that he's committed any, but the optics. You know that based on those optics in other jurisdictions, people, face problems.
Yeah, so I agree, and I'm saying that what has happened has happened. The man at the center of the controversy says, "I am sorry." He thought he could have been a little bit more cautious or careful in his, magnanimity towards the woman. The woman herself has also done some video to say that she asked for the money and all that. So if he didn't give, it would have been a problem. When he gave to, it's a problem. I understand the sentiment and all that. The earlier we try to put this aside and move on, the better for all of us, because I know many other appointees, including individuals like us, are all learning from what has happened.
Indeed.
And I think that it will serve this country a lot of good if we all learn going forward and to quickly put this behind us and concentrate on the much bigger issues.
Okay. Let me bring in Vicky Bright. That is, if you have any thoughts on this matter, have you seen the video?
No, I haven't seen the video.
Okay, so we're actually showing that video with the exchange. And my surprise in there was the fact that I saw phones and cameras and all of that, which would suggest that you see that, look, people are holding phones and all of that. You probably should be a bit more careful, because I saw, even if you were going to be this magnanimous, and I don't have any problem with that, but you see phones, people are holding, you should, because you could see someone was filming from this angle, which meant that it was so obvious, I mean.
But the Code of Conduct doesn't actually explicitly prohibit the gifting of foreign currency, you see. But the issue that might come up... It doesn't.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. But the issue that might come up ultimately is, can it be interpreted as, undermining national currency or suggesting a lack of confidence in the local economy? That's the issue. But in fairness to Sami Gyamfi, I really do think sometimes people are given that much in terms of that level of responsibility because maybe they're generous people. You know what I mean? When you're a generous person, it comes back to you in getting a good position and different things like that. So you keep on giving because that is what, we were brought into this earth to do, to be generous and to prosper. Do you see what I mean? And so maybe optics-wise, he could better handle that in terms of coming from a communication background, which he now does, given his former position within the NDC. Optics-wise, it could have been better, but I honestly think that being a generous human being to everyone is what leads people to success in life. Perhaps this is just an example of that.
Wanda, I still see you. I'm coming to you, Vic. I see you fretting a bit, fidgeting a bit, looking at me a certain way. Let me make this clear. And I have said it to many of my people in the political sphere. Sammy and I enjoy a pretty good relationship. I could even call it a friendship and all of that. But if I deem it not right, I will not hide it. And I believe it's a learning curve for Sammy Gyamfi. We are discussing it today. Tomorrow, we shall move on. But today, we shall discuss it. Vicky.
Yes, I agree with you. I think it's a learning curve. I think it's an indiscretion. It was a mistake. It's unfortunate. And as you said, against the backdrop of what President Mahama is trying to do with this code of ethics and similar, I think the timing is also not the best. But he has not committed any crime.
No.
I think we're all agreed on that. And I think we should accept his apology because, look, nobody is infallible. And so Sammy has apologized. I think we should accept the apology in good faith and we should move on.
We should accept it and move on.
We should accept it and move on. And I think he himself should grow as a result of this. I mean, he's now entered government for the first time. And there are going to be many lessons along the way. So I'm sure he would have learned a lesson from this. And he'll grow as a result. We all learn from our mistakes and we become better people. And so I think he should, we should just accept the apology and move on.
Wonder we should move on here. Wanda is telling me to move on. When you do that, you prompt me to stay there. don't do that. You make me stay there. Someone sends in a message and says, but is this not the same Agrada who was insulting President Mahama back then?
So that brings another discussion in focus. So you see, majority of the uproar even was internal. I can tell you for a fact that internally people were more agitated because they felt, we've been in a position for all this while. We just came back, and this woman who was a thorn in our flesh virtually, insulting the then candidate, John Mahama and all that. You didn't need to extend that. So these are all the issues. You wouldn't have heard about all this anger in the system if it was not backed also by internal, uproar. Agrada took a decision on her own because of her godfather, as it were, Reverend Usuwempa at the time, who had declared that John Mahama wasn't going to win the elections. And so she went on and on and on and on and on and on. And we all saw, but you see, the posturing of President Mahama speaks a lot in volumes. And all the people who work around him now knows that nobody's an enemy. It was a campaign season and she was all over the place. Campaign is over, elections are over, we have won the elections, we make progress. And we've brought everybody on board. We try to have an open system and a more, engageful system than apprehensions that you would have expected. That's why you will see some of this happen. And then she also did a video and said that she had given her house to us when we were doing the campaign to use as whatever and all that. So in the midst of all this, we're very grateful that Sammy Gyamfi himself has learned his lessons and we can make quick progress going forward.
All right, let's get into the papers now. Vicky, did I take your thoughts beyond this? Was there something else?
No, not yet. On this matter or the general thoughts?
I mean, your general thoughts before we get into the papers.
Oh, yes.
Once we go there, we're coming back.
Yes. I was very disturbed, actually, to read about maternal deaths. The focused person in the Eastern region responsible for maternal care has made some very revealing proclamations, and which are very disturbing, that we've lost 18 mothers just between January and May this year, and most of them have been in prayer camps. So I think it's important that we educate our mothers, especially the very young ones, to understand that sometimes you may need medical intervention during childbirth. Childbirth is a very I guess women, we know what it's like, and men who have been there when their wives are giving birth, you know what it's like. It's not easy. And anything can happen. So it's important that you have the right medical care if, God forbid, something happens. And there has to be some accountability in these prayer camps. You know, we're all Christians or Muslims. We all have our faith, and we cannot allow certain things to happen hiding behind that faith. So for me, that's very important, and we need to tackle that. 18 deaths, I mean, that's just unacceptable.
All right, thank you very much. Let's get into the papers very quickly. And at 7, we're going to be having an interaction. So just stay tuned for that. We're going to be hearing from the business community. I'll not tell you whom we're going to be interacting with, but just in a bit. Keep your fingers crossed. Amanda, let's start with your paper.
Yes, I've got the Ghanaian Times, and headlines include Cosmos Energy pledges $2 billion investment, and the finance minister pledges to sustain the Cedi appreciation, as well as a unit that's very dear to my heart, which is the human trafficking unit at Cedi headquarters, was able to secure 2 Ghanaian women trafficked to Nigeria, returned to Ghana. But Cosmos is huge in terms of, you know, a $2 million investment for upstream operations in Ghana. And the Minister of Energy says that this landmark investment by Cosmos Energy, combined with the government's commitment to reform, signals a new chapter in Ghana's energy narrative, one rooted in transparency, collaboration and opportunity. The minister also called on global investors to explore the growing opportunities within Ghana's revitalized energy sector. So that's like a $2 billion investment, which is probably going to be well received in Ghana.
Okay. Any other stories you'd like to get into?
Well, the U.S. Embassy cautions against visa fraud. For instance, I think the one of the people speaking for the U.S. Embassy said that paying so-called fixers who claim they could secure a U.S. visa for a fee is a real hindrance. And they also revealed that out of 61,000 visa applications submitted in 2024, only 25,000 was approved. But, you know, visa fraud is a huge thing. So if we curb more of that, maybe more visas will be approved, basically.
I mean, you don't know that for sure. And there are also the statistics about how much these visa fees accrue. I think I saw $10 million somewhere on the back of last year. And people also raised the comments about, look, if someone applies and you take away the other fees that maybe you may charge for the process, the rest of the money, can it be handed back? I mean, it's a genuine conversation people have spoken about, because if you're making $10 million from visa charges alone, if you deduct whatever minutiae may be for the process proper, the rest of it, where is it going? Is it? Do you get what I mean? Mm-hmm. That is, in other words, foreign exchange leaving Ghana, if you quantify it in dollar terms, for something that you may not have benefited from. So there's that question as well. I see it's not exactly a subject you.
For me, the bigger question is, why are so many people comfortable giving money to fixers as opposed to lawyers? And then they approach the lawyers. I mean, I'm approached lots of times after it all goes wrong, and someone they semi-know and the office is closed down. You know, they want to get that $10,000, $15,000 back from. Do you see what I mean? So at first instance, it is for the applicant to do a bit of due diligence and just go to a lawyer first, because, you know, fixers are just kind of like trying to use the system in order to just make money.
But people could also just go through the process on their own, you know what